So, hi everybody. As Linda said, I'm Phoebe Godfrey. I teach courses on society and climate change, sustainable society, sociology of food, social theory, sociology of education, and a wide variety of other things. And over the years, I've become more and more aware about student mental health. So this presentation and the practices that I'm speaking about come from my awareness of student mental health, and also the fact that that was heightened by the pandemic. I think probably for all of us, our mental health is being challenged. Our physical health is being challenged, especially if, for those of us unfortunate who did contract COVID. If you lost loved ones, students have lost loved ones, students have been infected, and powering through and kind of pretending that this isn't an incredibly stressful time, I think further enhances student stress. So as Linda said, my project or my idea for my service learning was to turn the focus inwards and to make the student the partner, to partner with themselves in terms of their focus and their time. And I took as my adage that saying, physician, heal thyself, that we send students out to do service learning projects who may also have the same issues that we're sending them to solve, who may also have poverty, who may be feeling emotionally depressed or experiencing racism or sexism. And then we send, well, go help those people who are experiencing those things and are not as aware that we also need to help our students become resilient and healed in order for them to do effective work. So I'm going to do what I do in my classes, which is start with a mini meditation. And if you don't like that word, I say to students, you can think of it as, a moment of contemplation or reflection. And I do it even online. And after a few weeks in the semester, I get students to lead and they come up with some beautiful ways of thinking about reflection. So I'm going to invite you, most of us are sitting, we're sitting all day, which is part of the struggle, but sit comfortably if that's good for you. Close your eyes for a moment and just take a nice deep breath and sort of drop into your body and think about this concept of service and service learning, getting students, getting ourselves to engage our bodies, and yet we are not as aware of our bodies. So bring your breath in and open your chest and release and relax your shoulders and your neck. Maybe your hands are tight. Feel your feet on the ground and just have that moment of recognition of your material self, your embodied self. And take another deep breath. And when you're ready, bring yourself back. Okay, so thank you for that. And on my slide, I love this little quote I found, and I'm going to turn because I'm using two screens and my camera's on one and the PowerPoint is on the other. So just notice that I'm doing that. It says, if you listen to your body, sorry, I need the full screen to go back. If you listen to your body when it whispers, you don't have to hear it when it screams. And I think, again, inviting our students to listen to their bodies, to listen to what is going on internally, and use that as a metaphor for what's going on in terms of the environment. I'm teaching sustainable societies this semester. This course was society and climate change. That was fully online. Sustainable societies this semester, I have an in-person once a week as well as online. But I use the idea of our relationship to our bodies as the metaphor for our relationship to the environment. And so, when we think about student and faculty mental health and stressors, you can look at these statistics, the increase. I'm sure you're all aware. You could do, have students close their eyes and say, how many of you, are struggling with anxiety? Have people put their hands hands up, mental health, know somebody. And I think, as educators, we are mandated to recognize this and to not assume that that's external to what we really need to do, which is get them to know the facts about whatever, and put it on the test. So my approach to teaching is very much about creating a whole body, an engaged student experience, and hopefully, for this presentation, creating that for you as well. As Linda read in the title, I came up with a couple of students of mine actually came up with this term, the sort of intersectional compassionate pedagogy, recognizing students' issues of identity, whether that's based on race and inequality and racism, gender and inequality and sexism, sexualities and inequality and the hierarchies, and bringing that into the classroom, bringing that into our discussion of service learning. How do you feel as a person of color going out to serve in a neighborhood where other people of color are being seen as needing our help, as in the dominant white middle class help? How do you as a white, and getting students to really identify how these intersections are shaping their perceptions of themselves, their bodies, each other, and their service. Pre-COVID, the year before in 2019, my Society and Climate Change course that this is written about was obviously in person, as we all were, and we did a bench project. And the bench project involved building, designing, finding permission, connecting with our president on campus to create these two benches that were designated as difficult dialogue benches for students to talk about climate change, talk about racism. All our benches on UConn campus are single benches, and you see a student sitting on there looking at their phone. If they are trying to talk to people, they have to turn to kind of try to make that connection. And so the class came up with, let's serve the campus, let's make some benches. The wood came from a tree from UConn. It was handmade at a place called Kinney Park Sustainability Project in North Hartford. And finally, in fall 2020, the benches were placed on campus and a garden was made. And these are students, obviously during COVID, doing the final touches. And so, realizing I couldn't do a project like the bench project in the fall of 2020. And so I decided, well, let's do this idea of physician heal thyself, and framing it in that very intentionally, giving them hours that they had to do something physical. They had to go hike, they had to cook, they had to knit, they had to dance, they had to meditate, they had to log it, they had to write, how they felt, where they did it, who they did it with, and then they had to do an intersectional analysis of it. And that's where it gets really interesting. A lot of white students are like, oh, I went for a hike. And so we read a piece about, birding while Black, if any of you are familiar with that, and recognizing the idea that not everybody, both separate and as one word, can go for a hike and feel safe. I got them to think about gender and hiking, single women, white women out in the wilderness, people of color out in the wilderness, knitting and gender, cooking and gender, horseback riding and class, meditating and cultural appropriation or inappropriate ways of thinking about yoga, or body domination. Oh, you have a yoga body, you don't have a, and so they had to do a lot of intersectional analysis using this. They did mind maps, and they had to start sharing with each other. I went for a hike. Oh, but I'm a white male and I've never thought about that as a privilege. Oh, I cooked as a female and I've never thought, how this has been gendered. And if I were male and a chef, I'd get paid way more than any woman has ever been paid to cook. And so this really got them thinking about the relationship between their bodies, between the environment, between space, and the intersection of those aspects. in terms of their experiences, and I'm going to go through this quickly because I want to have some time to chat with you guys. Students said things like better able to understand myself. I love this one. Taking care of myself is a responsibility. I also provide things on self-healing and self-help, folders that they can investigate. In their journaling, they're invited to reflect on, what am I feeling? What am I learning? What is coming up for me? How does this reflect on my identity? How does this reflect on my concept of service? Who do I think should be served? Who shouldn't be served? How do we construct who's deserving of service, right? Poor people have to be deserving of service. If they are addicts and convicts, not so deserving. But if they are white and they got sick and they lost their house, okay, maybe they're, and so getting them to really dig into these issues and then apply them to the larger construct of how we understand climate change. Whose island is worthy of saving, right? If sea level rise, recognizing that through a racist lens, that certain people are not going to be worth saving. Those of us in the West who aren't, as aware of climate change or are still denying it, oh yes, we are more deserving of a healthy planet, whereas, we could lose a few islands, mainly people of color, et cetera, et cetera. So getting students to really bring an intersectional analysis to all aspects of climate change, including our tendency to use the word humans. As a sociologist, I say, humans have nothing in common except we're born, we die, we embody different bodies, but the meaning of all of that is very cultural. Climate change is a cultural issue. It's constructed by cultural values, by ideologies, by masculinity, by our religion, of domination of the earth or separation. And so that was helpful for students. I like this one, help me get through difficult times. These are difficult times. We need to speak to that. I like this one. I was able to become more in touch with myself and the earth, right? We want students to care. We want people to, look at a flower and see themselves. But in order to do that, we have to have them make that deep personal connection through embodiment. Also, being still for ourselves is all we got when we begin to become adults. So kind of that idea of as we become adults, we have to be there for ourselves. And again, these are just vignettes, but I think it speaks to something that requires more investigation, more research, and more opportunities for students to really have this deep level of reflection. And on that, I've got a couple minutes left. Thoughts or questions from you guys, and I'm going to stop sharing. Just an appreciation to my colleagues and to Linda for setting this up and bringing us all together. So I'll stop sharing. It's time for us all to chat. So thank you.